It's just me and him at the minute. There was another him here, but that him's gone. But Stephen was just explaining to me off air, Johnny, about the whoopee cushion in the image, and it's in his wood of the neck. And I thought, well, we might as well go live, and you can explain it to Johnny. So
Yes.
go ahead.
Yeah. So I just saying, Johnny. Yeah. So that is what the drone will look like here, because the Walt logo is actually blue. So when you see all the guys going around here, they is blue and white like that. So the drone will be the same color. And when I was visiting Mana, it was in June last year, they were having a few kind of other drones that they had made into certain colors. So they can do those colors into anything they want and make it brand into whatever it is. So yeah, but I'll get a photo, I'll get some video, and I'll go and
visit the real thing. Yeah,
real
good
thing,
plan.
and I'll post it, and I'll maybe send it to Gary so we can have it on here next week or something, because I know they're doing the testing, and I keep meaning to go down to have to actually see the guys. So, but I just need to keep watching the aviation map, because I can see them flying.
Yeah. So is it very far away from? And hello there, Mark. Can you hear us this time, Mark?
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Good. Yeah, the Johnny T. That design's been pretty successful in Ireland. It comes over the top and lowers down the cargo, and they've been they're number 2, I would say now, to Zipline. Zipline, of course, are number 1 because they've just been going longer and actually getting the job done. But they're certainly way ahead of Amazon.
I think what Zipline has done is they've obviously done it in certain areas where they can just go for it, where they don't have to be held back by legislation or even, if you want to say, airspace. So Zipline have had that, which of course is really good, and I would love to go and see that system. I'd love to go and see how they work, because it looks really, really impressive. But having visited Mana and seen their operations and visited their test facility as well, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with, for sure. They have a really, really talented team there. So yeah, but looking forward to see they're actually flying not too far away from my home, so it's about maybe like a 10-minute drive, and I can go and I can see them. But I've got plenty of friends that live in that area where they're going to have their food delivered, so it's going to be good to see.
Absolutely. And we might as well jump to this one, which is let's see if it has jumped. Yeah, it has jumped. Also in your neck of the woods, ANRA, delivering your use space and advanced UTM solutions over there. So Finland's really beginning to move.
Yes, they have, and we're also involved in this as well. we have our fingers in this pie as well. So we've also partnered, ANRA actually approached us last year in the summer, and they wanted us to be their partner, to be their, if you want to say, boots on the ground here. So we've been trained up on the ANRA system, on the ANRA Noon, and we will be supporting VTT here in Finland. So whenever there's an issue that they have or something that they want to know, or there's meetings or whatever, we'll be the ones that will be there, and we'll be the support for ANRA. So yeah, it's been quite, it has been quite an interesting 6 months, let's say.
And really, this today, what is today? The 11th of February was. There's been more press releases today than almost the rest of the year combined. But a couple of things that caught my eye, because it's sort of pivoting, I suppose. One was this Wintra Ground. So setting up RTK solutions for that, and I thought that was interesting that they're doing that, and that's the big units as well. I'm surprised they didn't use the little reachers. I've got one of the reachers, not reacher, or the little handheld ones. So those are big units.
And I think also at the same time, Drone Deploy have also just released RTK, which is actually available for that, which I've been using actually as well. So and in a sense, it's free. So if you're using the Drone Deploy platform, then you get the RTK connection. As long as you have the cell connection to your mobile device from the controller, then you just have to wait. So it's available in most countries at the moment. So, but you just have to check the website to just see if it is available in yours. But certainly where I am, it's available, and I've been using it for my construction site inspections. So.
Yeah, I mean, and why wouldn't you? And I thought this was interesting. Back on round to the drone delivery sort of thing, that Wingcopter have put a LiDAR in their machine, and they're selling it as a mapping machine now. And that's got me wondering, why are they pivoting or adding that? As much as I love that machine, and I've seen that, I've seen all the stuff we mentioned so far in the flesh, I suppose. It didn't strike me as the most obvious fit, but there we are. They've done that. So I wonder if they're not managing to sell as many into the delivery market as they thought. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I think it'd be good to see that if with the drone delivery is that they have payloads like of LiDAR and they're capturing the data as they're going, and so it's kind of 2 for 1 or 3 for 1. Whatever, so because that kind of up-to-date data is really, really important, because with all, with the amount of construction that's going on in certain cities all over the world, the landscape is changing, and
yes,
and with new companies and new demands and new, let's say offerings of certain data, I think that would be good. So I think we will see that in the future, because obviously Mana don't have cameras on board, so they're not actually looking, but they could have a LiDAR on there and actually gather data as they go along.
Well, Amazon holds the patent for data gathering during delivery operations. If that's enforceable, I don't know. But it's a very interesting privacy concern or use case or interest, or I guess LiDAR is less intrusive than using photogrammetry. Although I suppose you will use photogrammetry with the LiDAR as well. You will have a stills camera to colorize the dots. Johnny's asking, can't they use LiDAR for obstacles and avoidance? Yes, they could. Yes. They could, but those are really quite small LiDAR. They're really not the same as a scanning LiDAR as this. But I just thought that was jolly interesting that they've done that. And then now we'll probably bring Mark in. He'll probably get angry at this one. Nat's white paper outlines revolutionary path to drone integration. Have you seen that one, Mark? And what do you think?
I haven't seen it. I'm afraid I haven't. Oh God, it's something to do with the UK's low level. Do you know what? Right, whatever's going to come is going to come. Quite clearly, the DFT, CAA, NATS. Pay to fly. I think if you're using any kind of thing, the problem is you're going to have NATS, UTM, SAT right at the main level, if you like, and then every other UTM is going to sit off that. So NATS will always get its money because it will be the ultimate god and control everything, which then means Mana, for example, if they were in the UK, might want to use their own system, but it has to be connected to the NATS one. So NATS is always going to get its cream. It might not be a lot, but it's going to get its cream because that's the way it'll work. And then you'll have Mana system sat there. So it's like Altitude Angel, bless them. Their system doesn't need NATS at all. It would work without that, but they're going to have to be connected. So there's going to be a cost there connected, and you're going to pay for Altitude Angel as well. Well, it's going to UTM.
There's ANRA as well. ANRA's in that one, along with Plane Finder. It's not particularly... I don't know.
I just don't like when one company becomes the main, is number one source of data for this kind of stuff. It's not needed to be that way, and it makes it pay to fly. And it's just, is it just another tax? Paying operator ID. What else can we get money for? Is it going to? They keep talking about here tax to drive your car per mile. It's going to be fly per mile with a drone. It's going to be nuts. And they'll want us to pay fees, which will be overpriced for what's going on. They'll try and compare us to manned aviation, and then they go, well, manned aviation's paying this, so drones can pay this. Instead of going by our weight, which will be peanuts, they'll charge us the price of flying a small Learjet into an airport or something daft. We already know that East Midlands, if you park up a plane for the night, it's cheaper, so you can land at the airport, park your plane up. You want to do a drone flight, you pay more for it. It's nuts.
Yeah, I can't see them doing that, though. I actually can't see them charging a lot of money. I mean, you know how it would come for you to fly. Well, I don't know. Your Sail 2 to get that through. It must be something around the same. I mean, it can't be.
Well, you kind of say that, Stephen, but you understand, right? In YASA world, your Sail 2, for example, is quite cheap and reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the UK, we're going to, I can't say what will happen because Gary will have this stream blocked.
No, that's all right. You can.
Basically, it'll be like bending over, someone's going to strap a rubber glove on and they're going to shove it somewhere.
Oh, that sort of blocked. Oh, yes. And I've got the Dronamics video running because yes, that thing's flown, but I don't quite understand why they're part of a consortium that has all they have done is flown their demonstrator. They haven't put any long range flights in. They haven't run any services anywhere. It's like not sure why they're there.
If that's
not
in
sure
the UK,
why.
So if that was done in the UK, the reason why they can do it as a demo flight is probably because that's all they got permission for. Do you know what I mean?
It's in the east somewhere, isn't it? I can't remember quite where it is now. But it's in the EU. It's well east. Oh. So I'm just why are they in the consortium when they haven't done it yet? I would much rather
because the funding gives them money in order to do this and have as much nice videos and PR and all the rest of it. And, it's the usual. We know drones can fly. We know drones can deliver. We know they can go far. Stop messing around and just
do it. Just crack on. Yeah.
It's like so we have future flights, right? So as if it's going to be the future, right? It's the past flight now. I'm not calling it future flight because it's everything they've said we want to do in future flight. You've been able to do for the past 10 years. The only thing that needs to catch up is regulators around the world. When regulators actually catch up with us, right, and the technology, yay. But the problem is they'll catch up with it today, but they don't think about tomorrow very well. They're not very good.
They can't because there's no business. That's why. There
can't be a business because they can't come up with basic, a nice structure of rules that everyone can understand.
Yeah, but at the same time, they can't do business because the regulators cannot commit to a certain timeline in order for them to do that business. Yeah. So if you have a large company, a really, really large, let's just say the post office or let's say UPS, right? So they will have funding, they'll put budget for we want you to start in 3 months' time. You say, well, there's no way the regulators will give us permission for that in 3 months' time. You say, okay, we're not interested. We could do it within a year. Well, that's too late for us. So so when you're fighting, when you fight against the regulators are the ones that are doing you wrong. I'm not pointing at any fingers of which ones, but of course we know this is the case. So, and I do see this a lot.
It's not
Benoit,
So it's regulators around the world that are the problem, be it in YASA. So YASA is quite interesting because you've got all the national aviation authorities that are meant to be sort of aligned, although we all know that YASA's rules are slightly different. They all have their subtle differences in different countries.
Subtle,
like well, flying in France is different to flying in Spain, for example.
It's funny you should say that. Funny you should say that, Mark. I just want to go off tangent a little bit because I got a message from one of our partner companies saying, we are looking to do cross border and we've done cross border X, Y, Z, and we know it's 30 days. So within the asset, it should be 30 days. In Spain, it's 3 months. They're like, what? And they see that as acceptable. I said, that's not acceptable. So I now have to go to Jeddah and say, this needs to get fixed because this is not acceptable. 3 months to get in your cross border. Yeah, exactly. It's all over the place.
I mean, getting approved here to do stuff, getting your PDRA one's easy here. So getting a PDRA one, that's easy. If you wanted an OSC though, depending what you want to do, I mean, I had a little chat with someone today, and you would not believe how much it's changed in the past year. Now the CA want like photos of every little thing, like how do you connect a hose to a drone, or how you connect anything extra onto a drone. It has to be, photographed images of every little bit, how, even like a little procedure on tightening it up, everything. They're really going to town now, which is making the OSC volumes massive. Yeah. I mean, the Soras are going to be really interesting because we've got Cap 722D revision, really ugly little head without no one was told.
Yeah,
it wasn't by email, wasn't by SkyMice. It was just it appeared. It's like, what the? And then you start reading it, and it's all got Sora here, Sora there. This is going to be. It's like, I give up.
Yes, and they've already said they're pushing that Sora thing back. Benoit, I've sent you a link.
Are they? I thought
they're pushing it.
April.
Yeah. No, apparently they're pushing it into next year. Apparently, allegedly. So who knows? But that's the trouble is. Well, see, you haven't heard that, but I've heard that. I think I've put a post up to that effect. I'm sure the CAA sent out a missive about it.
I thought the Sora was meant to be its ugly head the back end of
in April.
Year. I thought it was back end. Oh, so it was meant to come.
Well, it's going to be April, then the back end of the year, and now into next year. But when into next year, I don't know. Well, that's what I'd heard. But that's the problem in itself, isn't it? It's like, oh, I think I've heard that, or maybe I have, maybe I haven't. And to Stephen's point, if you've got a business and you want to start doing something, it's like, I think it's this. I think you don't. That you need clarity, don't you? You need to know where you're going and how you're getting there. Here goes Benoit. Hello, Benoit.
Guys.
How's it?
Hello,
welcome. And
yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Gary.
What piqued your interest? Something piqued your interest to send that. Can I join? I'm interested to know.
Yeah, I just saw this in the feed somewhere, and I was like, oh, interesting. And so I just thought maybe I'd join you guys. And just first of all, I'm going to listen to what you guys are saying and keep myself updated about the latest news in the drone world, of course.
I said it's ill-advised to listen to us, Benoit. It's very ill-advised. Very, very, very. That's a schoolboy error, that is, listening to us. Yeah. But there you go. We were just moaning about time. Now, you're sat in EASA land properly. Are you happy with how quickly things move for you when you want something signed off or certified?
Yeah, things take a lot of time. This is a bit what's frustrating about this area is the complication each time you want to do any move, all the regulations, and it is something. This is the most difficult thing in this area is the regulatory aspects. For example, I'm thinking. And we were very close to see those eVTOL in Paris, and they just got blocked. They didn't let them fly. Finally, I think it was. I felt really disappointed because I really expected that France for the Olympic game they would display this, and because France originally was a country really at the forefront of aeronautical development. And it's really for me to see my country not taking this leap forward, but instead refusing to accelerate. I got very disappointed at the time. I need to admit.
Yeah. It's also not the most friendliest country to do cross border in as well. But it's sure. when you're in other other EASA states, and you want to go there, and they just point you towards Alpha Tango and say just do that, and and you don't have anyone personal to speak to. It's not the easiest country to do. I mean, we have done quite a few cross borders there, but it hasn't been the easiest process, unfortunately. So,
well, that's interesting. It should be the same throughout EASA land, though, shouldn't it? Should be identical. There should be no changes. There should be no difference.
It should, and that's something that we've been discussing in Jeddah. We have had actually Natalie there from EASA, and we're trying to explain what it's like to do that, and how that certain countries are good to work with and some countries are not, when you should have this balance. It's because that's how it should be in a sense, but it's not. So every country is very, very different. So the attitude towards unmanned is positive in some countries, and the attitude towards unmanned is very negative in some countries, and it's really hard to do business. It's really hard to say to clients, yes, we'll get across border and we'll have it done in time and we can do it on this day. Sometimes that's not possible.
Yeah, and that's what's gonna every business is gonna stumble with that. If the regulator doesn't keep to its timelines and its decision making processes, you can't plan. And then, but swinging back to Paris and the eVTOLs, I thought Paris was being a little bit too, or not Paris. Was it Volocopter? I can't remember which one it was now that was really up for it. I thought they were being quite optimistic in thinking they were gonna get. We know that, but the thing is, we know their platform can fly. That's not the problem. But it's very optimistic, thinking you're going to get a city to agree to something new and unusual like that in a relatively short time frame. I think there was only 18 months before the event happened that they started talking about it. So it was very brave. And again, speaking to Volocopter, they were the first to market in many ways. And I'm astonished that they're not really pushing their delivery machine. They're a cargo lifter, and they're still flying that manned one. I'm astonished. They've got a great machine that could be used everywhere, and I don't know why they're not punting it hard. And they're going for, yes, they're flying that little one around their test field, but they've yet to prove big stuff.
It could be that it could be what they promised the shareholders. It could well be that the shareholders are actually demanding, because you do tend to find that there are small clauses here that say that for that your first flight, your first, let's say, commercial flight must be this or should be this. I know that I don't know if they have that, but I do know that within these companies there are these certain clauses that they have to stick to, and it can be something really small that can stop them from going forward, but they have to, because that has been agreed, and there's no way that they'll get extra funding if they don't do that. So
I'm a lot more bullish on regional RAM, regional air mobility, and the chances of bigger, like the thing that I dissed just earlier, of larger machines moving bigger packages around than people being moved around. And I think we can say DJI owns the multi-rotor delivery drone space now, with the one, not so much with the one that's around the world, which I think is 30 to 40 kilos, but the one that's in China at 100 kilos, they're there. They own that space now. You're not going to compete with them. Doesn't matter what you build.
You're right. The thing is, when it comes to Chinese-made stuff, it's not going to end up in America. It's not going to end up probably not going to end up in Europe. But Asia, they'll reap the benefits. They're going to start to make the West look like we're going backwards. In reality,
I think
they
they
probably
are.
already are.
I think they already are. I don't think they're going to. I think they are. Yeah.
Some of the islands and stuff, especially out in that area, you could quite happily run drone delivery systems just off the fly carts, be it 100 kilos or 30 or 40 kilos, quite nicely. But disaster relief, if you had a island that was hit by tornadoes, whatever, right? What you need on the ship that you show up with, you don't need a helipad anymore. You just need enough space for fly carts, and you could shift so much stuff so quickly, shore and back, shore and back, shore and back.
Yeah.
You can't send your smaller boats because obviously the docks have been destroyed. Everything's a complete mess. If you just had a load of fly carts on standby in your ship, you've got the solution. You don't need anything else. It'd just be the local regulator allowing you to do it.
Well, that swings us all the way.
And that's what's going to stop you.
Yeah, well, that brings us all the way back around to that future flight thing as well. And we should be calling it now flight. We should be demanding we want what is possible now. We don't want to think about the future. Doesn't matter. The future's ahead of all of us, and it always will be. We'll never reach the future. It's always ahead of us. So we want what's available now. It doesn't matter what's available ahead of us.
So
anyway, sorry, Benoit.
No, but the Future Fly and the sandboxes here are almost kind of interesting what they allow. Now, back in, I want to say, I've got to get my dates right, and someone please correct me if you're watching from the UK. But if you had a PFCO in I want to say around 2016 to 2018, maybe 19, you used to be able to fly 500 meters BV loss under your PFCO. It was a little bit of text. It was part 2D. And basically, if you wrote it into your ops manual, you were actually allowed to do this. So if you were doing mapping of a building, and when you get to the far end, you've got to stand right back so you can actually see the aircraft over the building because you've always got to main VLOS. You could actually do that without the pilot having to see it under your old PFCO, as long as there was a set of eyes on it, kind of thing. So you could, some people call it EV loss, whatever, but it's BV loss to the pilot, basically. But you might have another set of eyes on it. But you could do that under your PFCO. And for years, no one knew about that for a couple of years. I was actually told about it from someone from the CA. And I went, what? He goes, yeah, read your PFCO. And it had this, and then they took it away in about 2019-ish. They just went, right, we're not having that anymore. You're losing it. It wasn't discussed, wasn't put out to consultation. They just took it. And then you find out in 2020, 2021 or something, they send it to the sandbox for testing that idea out. Well, hang on a minute. Those of us that knew, we were doing it. It's like, and everything just goes backwards in the industry. The UK used to lead in the industry with the PFCO, the rules that we had set out. Now we're just like lapdogs. We're just trying to follow, and we're doing, not a good job really at times.
Who was saying 100 kilos compared to a faulty rocket stage falling out of the sky? But I think I'll say the controversial thing. It's a DJI flight cart. They won't fall out of the sky much. And you can de-risk. I hear that day to day, but let's say you are in an emergency situation, then all bets are off in a lot of ways to people on the ground if you need to move stuff. But you can certainly de-risk those operations quite easily. And just moving, as they use them in China, just for moving stuff up a hill, it doesn't have to be your flight doesn't have to be 50 kilometers over the city. It could be just straight over a building because you're going to lift a heavy thing or up to the top of a building, or just it doesn't have to be miles. If you need to lift a thing, you can lift a thing.
But did you see on LinkedIn that report about flyaways?
Yeah.
Right. So this is really interesting, right? Because we kind of now know that a flyaway is really rare. Right. So if we were to wind back the clock to like 2011, 2012, when the A2 and the Wukong was about, the NASAs were about, there used to be a bug in the GPS receiver, wasn't there? And it used to...
Yeah, well, that's one of the things,
Yeah, among other things. And it would try to go home, as we used to call it, which is when, I remember back in the day, and it was really around 2013, So there used to be Vulcan, who made beautiful big airframes. Right?
Yes.
And it had a red underneath it. Was it a Red Epic? I think it was, which is a big film camera for everyone that doesn't know. They're worth about 60 grand, 80 grand with the lens, worth a fortune. You know, when you hear the story where they were flying it down south and it just shot off out to sea. It just it went. You know, and you hear these odd horror stories. And if you ever flew the Wukong or the A2, before you got GPS 2 on it, you was always wary of these things because it could, at any point, decide, I'm out of here. And you have to flick to ATI mode and, you know, fly it. Nowadays, GPS dropouts are so rare that even if it does drop GPS, it's only the wind that's now going to affect it. They don't try to go home normally. They normally stay, you know, they stay flying. They don't whiz off at 100 miles an hour normally anymore. They're very rare.
I experience loss of GNSS regularly because we're next door to Russia, so I do experience it. And the drones will just hover. If you have wind, they will move with the wind.
Yes.
So you basically have to, you know, as long as you have the situational awareness and you know where it is, then you can bring it back. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And the important bit is if you twiddle the sticks, it'll come back. You know, as Stephen says, you know, he gets the GNS drop out. Oh, hang on a minute. I know the drone's there. There's a bit of a breeze. It's pushing that away. Well, it's simple. Push the sticks and it'll come.
We had six drones in our location when we were doing some traffic management, gathering data, and all six at 8:30 in the morning. 8:30 on the dot, all six drones lost all GNSS, and we had to bring them all back, and we just had to go and have coffee for a few hours because, you know, the area was. But
we're gonna have this now. You can put in
awesome.
that this is going to be on everything, so we can say that that's gone away.
Yes. I mean,
it's just
sorry, go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a Raspberry Pi, and it's I can't remember the area of map.
It's 100 kilometers by 100 kilometers.
Yes, that's the number I was going to say, but I was purely pulling it out of my hat. But this is going to be on everything. This has arrived now. It's open source. This will become standard, and just watch your GPS issues go away then. But of course, GPS has got way more reliable, and we're talking, you know, a lot of the flyways back in the day, we are really talking about shoddy gear, shoddy GPS, shoddiness in every direction, and I don't think it's fair. I would say 99% of flyways now is operator error. It's not. Yeah. Define a flyaway. It's like I think it was Chris, that terrible man, Chris Crockford, who regulators around the world can't stand. Evening, Chris, if you're watching, he put a thing, a very good post up about that. I wish I had the sense to get there quickly, but it's somebody stood there. You can imagine the person stood there going, oh, it's flying away and doing nothing about it, and then the mechanical one is coming anyway. There's loads of things around that.
There was that M600 in the UK where it was on a construction site. They lost control of it. They blamed it on a flyaway. No, you didn't flick the switch and you didn't fly it. That's why it crashed. Exactly. So it really is that. Well, as we know, with all surveys and all data, you can make whatever you like of any sets of data that you gather. You can make that data give you the result you want that data to tell you. And I'm not down with that. And I would say training's more important than anything else.
Well, like we've always said, Gary, over the past few months, we're also about education. And I think that when you go back and fly older drones, so if you're used to flying, drones right now, they have just been out over the past year, and then you go back and you fly like the M600, which is a good few years old. Yeah. You kind of have that attitude of it's a drone that I'm flying now, and you kind of have to wait a little bit. You get a bit too confident, like you're flying drones that have got different chips and stuff like that. They've got different GPS chips and whatnot. So you do tend to get a little bit, if you want to say, complacent, and then that's when you have the trouble.
Josh saying M600 equals what American drone now? That would be. There are a few.
So it's a big hex basically. So I've actually got an old F550. Do you remember the old F550s with a NASA on it? A NASA version 2 actually with GPS module on it. When I fly that, it's like, oh my God, because it flies so differently, like Stephen was saying, to the modern stuff. It kind of like, it rewinds you back. It's like another test on your skills, especially when you're coming into land, because normal DJI stuff, it'll slow you down because it senses the ground and stuff. But of course, the NASA, it's not got that. It doesn't know where the ground is. It's just coming in hot, basically. You've got to catch it at the bottom.
I think this is what immediately came to mind as anything from the inspired flight crowd. But I know what your next comment's going to be, Josh. It's going to be, it's so flipping expensive. I know that's what your next comment's going to be, but welcome to your world, really.
What really gets me, though, and really puzzles me at times is, right, so DJI just for once put the props facing down on the M300. And now look at it. Everyone wants to put props facing down, or one set of them. And it's like, why do you want it in the grass? I just don't know why you want stuff near the ground at times.
Because I think the perceived 2% increase in efficiency or something like that, because it's not going around the arm. But then other people will tell you, yeah, but you're still dragging the air around the arm, so the effect is still there. So too many people fitting carbon fiber props to things to increase the efficiency. Well, yeah, it might, but the danger level goes boom if a carbon fiber prop goes into you compared to a plastic prop. Mitchell batteries some sort of possessed. Okay, Mitchell. All right, well, he'll know. All right, what's your choice then, Mitchell? I'll put your choice up. He'll have a good idea of what his ideas on that are. That's the one that straight away came to my mind. The non-smart battery, yeah, I'm sure they are just dumb old batteries. And I see they're Chinese batteries as well, looking at the video there. Swinging back around to the UK CAA, I've heard that they've been looking across sofas all week in Gatwick in the main building and looking down the back of them because the reason they went on strike on the 6th, which was last week, was because they've lost £10 million down the back of sofas. And that £10 million apparently was what was going towards those pay increases for the workers. So, if you're at Gatwick and you've got to go to a meeting, do lift up the cushions and have a look.
What makes you think CAA staff at Gatwick? They're all they some of them do go into the office, I'm sure, but I think you'll find most of them, if you was to go to Gatwick for a meeting with them, they will then come in by teams on the computers, as we've heard.
Well, that's exactly what happened, wasn't it, at that meeting that happened recently? The consultants, wasn't it? I'm going to put the Alta X up while we're here.
Oh, well, to spend the money on consultants explains it all.
Yeah, 10 million of the Earth pounds allegedly. I think I have to add the word allegedly, don't I, to these?
Yes,
things?
you have to.
So I've added the word allegedly. So it'll be interesting to see. It would be really shock horror if they are trying to find holes in their budgeting with increased fees from end users. That would be a terrible thing.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, well, I suspect Ian's not joining us because he's got to be careful of what he says. There's been all sorts of shenanigans this week. Yeah, there's been all sorts of shenanigans. So it's we're getting to the pointy end of not trusting. Well, I don't think we trusted the regulator anyway, but it really is getting nasty.
I've always been on the side of the regulator up until probably a few years. I've always been the one that goes, look, DFT, it's a DFT company, can't make more than a 5% profit. However, when they start charging us £312 an hour for our OSC renewals, if you go over the allotted time, that's taking the mickey. When companies are struggling to get OSCs through that are perfectly safe, the amount of paperwork's going up and the time it takes to do, and everything. And you see the costs of the SORAs and SAIL applications. How can that be allowed, on a small, I want to say fairly small industry? If you're talking 3,000 PDR AO1 operators, the 111 OSC operators, that's not a big industry.
How could they justify it? It's not to say it's allowed. How can they justify it? How, if you think about where the money's coming from and where the money will be going, how can they justify it?
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, they want a pay rise.
They want a pay rise. They do want a pay rise.
I think all the drone operators want work as well, but they can't get work because
it's the time it takes for the OSC renewals, like we've been saying. If you're stuck in renewal loop and it's 3 months, it's horrendous. You've got your teams, that want to go out and work. However, actually, to be fair, you can apply 90 days before your kind of OSC wants renewal. So, as long as you do it in that time frame, in theory, you should get it back in time and it should be all sorted. But it's still a lot of pressure on the team to get it right and get it sorted and get it done.
Absolutely.
And especially flying time. If it's your prime operating time in the summer, where do you find that week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks? It's either service your customers and get your money in. Hang on a minute, they've got the regulator to deal with as well. It gets very complicated at times, especially when you've got small company trying to get going and stuff. It's quite tricky.
I was trying to put up and I'm going to ask Benoit how his work's going just in a minute. I'll share his screen, but I was going to try and share something from here and see if I can. How can I get a big screen? Did everyone see the cubes on the Cube Pilot page this week? That was quite interesting.
Oh yeah, I saw that. 6 million cubes a year pumping out of Australia.
Oh, that's the new factory in Australia. No, they're baking it. Oh, I can't do that because they're
baking it where they heat it up, cool it, cool it. Yeah, all in the Australian factory. Amazing. How to stress test before they come out the door. I mean, absolutely. I mean, they are knocking it out the park. You have it's really interesting. You've all these people going, the Western flight controllers got to have this, got to catch it. Just to understand, the Cube is better than anything else just about out there, and it's Western.
Well, have a look at the Cube Pilot page on LinkedIn. I can't get it to share at a reasonable sign. I'll moan at him and say put it on YouTube. That's what I'll do. Then that would have worked easily. But I thought that was quite interesting. Now, what was in my head, I was going back to something after that. Oh, that's right. Benoit. So Benoit, tell us what are you up to? What's your main reason for being in the drone world at the moment?
Okay, so in fact, for some time I got a bit away from it, and I was focused on other activities. I'm in Porto. I'm working with some real estate developers in Porto, and but since I had an opportunity this year, I started to go back at it again. So I'm literally catching up with you, catching up with what's happening right now. My experience. You remember Gary a very long time ago. We even published a little article about me because I was opening my own website. That time was like banned for UAV, independent drone pilot, and so on. And my experience is really field experience, deployment of systems. And at that time, it was really nice because there was no regulation whatsoever anywhere in the world. So I could travel from country to country to try to train teams to use the drones And I went to countries like even Australia, Japan, and other places, Eastern Europe, even Africa, and there was never a problem of regulation at the time. What I was doing was probably a little bit not very. I don't know if it was fully legal. It was a bit of a risky business, but I had this opportunity to fly in a lot of different environments. And the other thing I can tell you is, for me, it's super important, no matter what the operation is, that the drone pilot, the operator, always has a ground control system that allows to take over the drone. I really don't like those systems operated just by a tablet, and then the machine will go and fly by itself. If something goes wrong, then you're really in a deep trouble. I feel it's super important that someone has manned controls somehow, just like joysticks, and a way to bring back the aircraft. It happened to me one day in Japan. The machine you would put auto return, and the machine just wouldn't auto return at all. So we had to figure out a way to make it come back. We had to calculate the time it would come back, the direction, the heading, and everything, and we managed to bring it back. But if we didn't have the ground control station at that time, and at that time I was using a Liman Aviation system, and at that time it was very, very good system. It came in a pellet case, and was just very, very useful. And I just wish that all drone systems had something similar. Um, and then, of course, you can send a drone on a route. You can pre-program a route. An area to scout. This is not a problem, but you always need to have those control. I am completely opposed to the system where someone puts something on a tablet and it's just like fly and forget. But that's my personal opinion for having encountered a difficult situation in terms of wind, in terms of terrain, all the things that you need to calculate when you're on the ground. You need to see what's the best launching point, where the signal is going to go through or not. There's a lot of parameters that people don't figure out. So I think my experience in this is, my added value is that I know on the terrain what it looks like to deploy. Yes, that's a good picture. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you know
These
the
are the
last
good
time
old days.
2021 was the last time I posted something from them, and as soon as you said it, oh yeah, I remember them. And then that also, you see all the little bobbles on the EPP, the amount of arguments people had, whether that really did make an aerodynamic difference or not. Well, you see, go on all day long, like the carbon fiber props argument as well. The argument will go on all day long. That one.
So if I remember correctly, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, that air will sit in those gaps anyway. So air down at our level is quite dense, up to about, that's not going to go much above 10,000 feet, but let's say 10,000 feet and below, the air's quite dense. So it sits in those bubbles anyway. It kind of gets sat there, and then the other air just pushes over the top of it. It kind of self evens itself out, if I remember, or am I completely wrong?
Well, it's like this is like one of those, when you put an aeroplane on a rolling road, will it take off things? The arguments that you see forever. They go on forever. But just put it on, you say the old days, Benoit, but that just gives joy to my heart, seeing a simple wing like that. The amount of work that was done around the world with simple wings. And we've rushed to these multi-rotors, and this is just way easier. Sort of where I cut my teeth. We don't see them so much. I think big wings might start making a comeback. It's the launching of them, isn't it? That's the trouble when they get really big. When you get up into the 2 or 3 meter ones.
Yeah,
it's the launching.
Actually,
I love shapes.
Sorry to interrupt. Actually, the wing design, this kind of design is very good. It's a very good a very good design to carry a lot of load. In fact, for a small surface of wing, you can already carry a lot. I remember my Liman drone at the time. It was like just 1 meter wingspan, something like that. Very, very not a big surface, right? But I managed to fly it with over 2 kilos of payload for more than 20 minutes at that, and it was just back then in 2014, something like that. So for
Yeah.
the time, it wasn't very, and also another thing is the design was extremely rugged. So very often I landed this wing in the most crazy places. Sometimes I had to land in Japan. I remember it was very difficult to fly because it's very hilly there, and the only place we found to land it properly, there was no proper place to land to do the belly landing. So we had to land it straight on the pine trees because it would
Yeah.
cushion.
I've done that. I've done
Yes,
that.
it-
I've deliberately landed on trees. I've done that.
yeah.
Yeah. But I worry now. Look, they've got AI images on their website. Okay. That doesn't
Yeah.
inspire confidence. Sorry. Don't do that, people. Don't do that.
Well,
So yeah, they were we don't really hear
I
about
won't,
them anymore.
I will not say anything bad about this company because I worked many years with Benjamin, the Benjamin Lehmann, the founder, and I'm still I'm still in very good terms with him. He's a friend of mine now. Over the year, we've turned friends. So I know that he has projects for larger machines and other kind of operations. So I'm excited to see what he's going to come up with. Let's see. Let's wait and see.
I think it was the EBs really ruined the small wing market. Just because costs got silly for what they are. It is just a bit of fun.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you got to be a bit careful with costs, but yeah, but that had you were very disconnected tablet-based ground control station for that. You don't feel very engaged with the effort. But I suppose many people say you shouldn't have to. It should be that reliable that you don't need to be engaged, and it should have a really good return to home system.
But this is the theory, I went on a system that we were like moving the drone from like GCS system, and then we had a system with tablet, and it operated on the Windows, and I hated it. If something went wrong, it was very difficult to get control over it. The good system, the really brilliant thing with the Lehman GCS at that time is that you could orient the GCS. It was like swinging around the pole, right? It was rotating around the pole, and the antennas were always, you could orient your antennas in the direction of the aircraft, so you would extend the range. So it was really a brilliant idea. The original concept of the Lehman drone, I'm talking about like the LP960 and M450, those were really they were very cleverly designed. And for example, something I hated with the tablet is like, for example, when you have sun, you're outside in the sun, how do you look at your screen? It's a nightmare. When you had this system that you would put your hand, you would just like view inside just a kind of like a box, was just perfect. You wouldn't be bothered by the light. It was so much easier. And the system was very simple. It was very easy to know your altitude, your heading, and you always could face the aircraft to your direction in case you would lose a signal and bring it back. I never lost a single aircraft. Sometimes I had to rescue them from we had quite interesting adventures trying to rescue the crashed drone, because sometimes it was because the battery wouldn't last. So I had to land it like, just gliding and crash it somewhere. And so I remember many times, quite a few times I had to go and like, I remember that like the riskiest thing was maybe in Australia. There were snakes, and I remember there was an Australian farmer like walking in front of me. I was like, I was hoping that this guy would make the snakes go away, because like this was like black mamba. If you would get bitten by them, that was the end.
Yeah. This is 2008, and this is. In fact, I've got one here. If I look, I won't.
Yeah.
But I've got. It's just flying with. We were playing with wings a lot, and funny enough, Dean Goad is back in the market now. He's making autopilots again. But I didn't
cool.
quite get
It
it.
looks a lot like
Vertical
OS10.
landing. Yeah.
Oh
So
yes.
the wings were look at that, 68 miles an hour gusts.
I mean, look,
And what we
I love fixed wings.
I do
love,
too.
you know, I can do FPV, but I used to FPV plane fixed wing because I couldn't multi-rotor. For me, if you're going to FPV it, normally that's like racing, if you like, tearing around, being a bit of a nutter. Where I like to just steadily cruise. You know, you can just chuck the aircraft and off you go, just going to cruise.
Mm.
And I used to have a great OSD, and it always used to show me where home was and the height I was at and everything. Used to, you know, it's really nice coming back to you on the screens. You've got your spotter with you. I used to love that kind of thing. But I actually got told off by the CAA once, you know, for the way I flew.
Well, never.
Yeah, for the way I flew an EB. And I recorded it and put it on YouTube. And they went, "How were you watching the drone?" And I was literally there holding a handheld camera on my computer screen. And I could see the EB coming up and back. So I was holding the camera while talking. And I was looking up. And I'm like, look, it's in the edit. You can see that I know exactly where the aircraft is and everything around me. I can see where everything's going. What's your problem? Kind of thing. But you kind of got to play nice at that point because otherwise they just get a bit stompy on you. But
I'm determined to find that autopilot now.
Because someone else complained. I think someone else complained, but you can see the EB. It's fantastic. I just love the fact you shake it, you upload the mission, you shake it, you chuck it. When working, it's nice because you shake it, you chuck it into wind, off it goes, does its thing, comes back, lands. I say land, it crashes itself because it creates its own stall. So, you know, the thing with EB and SenseFly was, we know you're going to have to service your drone after about 100 flights. After about 100 landings, it starts to get quite battered. They now have to make their money back on it.
Well, but the efficiencies as well, compared to, I'm looking for that autopilot. It's here somewhere.
Compared to
multi-rotor, the efficiencies. Multi-rotor is just, they're madness. For, you know, you're aiming at 3 amp hour flight draw and stuff like that. And with that, with Dean, with the autopilot, what we had in the end, based on a kilometer, was all it did. You switched it on, and it did a grid pattern suitable for your camera that you had on, which of course was something like a Canon Ixus running CHDK. I've got one here somewhere, and it just did the grid. And then circled, and you landed it wherever you put it. But it started the grid based on where you were taking off from, and it just hit a square kilometer, and you did that every time. And then to overlap it, you just walked 500 meters, and so your grid overlapped. You did the next one. We did no flight planning or anything, but with the ability to take that over at any time with a normal RC controller and land and prevent the flyaway stuff. Things like that. Oh, I'm getting on my high horse, aren't I? But yeah, I like. Well done, Benoit. I like wings, Benoit. Wings.
And then, you know, I'm surprised. You know, one thing, Gary. I'm very surprised that they are not more in use because we don't see them very often. We see a lot of, you know, what's going on going on in Ukraine, right? You see a lot of FPVs are being deployed, but I would expect more wings also to be there because
there's more than you think. There's more than you think.
They are very stealth. In fact,
there it is.
You can fly pretty high. I remember very well. I had some techniques at that time that I would fly really high, spot an area of interest, and then cut the motor, so I had time to make my pictures and come back completely stealth. Just put when the drone was away from the risky zone, let's say, I could just start the engine like in middle throttle, right? But for a while, I would just fly, circle, just gliding from very high altitude. And nobody knew I was there making my pictures and getting all the intel I need, right? I'm just telling you, guys, this thing is, and the fact that this thing is so rugged is also it's really excellent for this kind of situation.
They are
because
there.
you let
There's
them
more than you
anywhere.
think.
But I haven't
The-
seen a system that's comparable to this one. They have to be there, but what I've seen is more sophisticated machines, a lot like those fancy gliders with a motor and that like very nice design, very sleek. But you don't see, I haven't seen honestly a rugged wing that like the one I used to. That looks like an Ebia or Lehman stuff. I haven't seen any of those in any footage. I don't know if you guys have seen. Me, I have not seen any of those.
Well, this is the cardboard drone, the SciPac. That's the most popular thing, and
Why?
I know in Ukraine, and I know that this plank has GPS denied navigation. I
Oh,
know this plank
okay.
has all sorts of extra stuff, and I know that
Okay.
they're using them for multi missions. So that's been hugely successful.
Right?
And I think I want to say that it's more than 500 a day being made there.
But
So
we don't see. Sorry, Gary, but we don't see any Z wing. I don't know how you call this. I don't
Yeah, with
see
the-
any
yeah.
Delta wing
Yeah.
deployed. I haven't seen any.
Yeah, I think getting them away. There are a point when you start getting over 2 meters, they get hard. This goes up rails with a big bungee and rails
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that's simple. It's a simple thing. There's a lot more systems there. I mean, you see the guys, that Ukrainian company, talking that they do. So was it? In fact, let me not get it wrong. They do. Isn't it 5,000 a day, something like that?
I've heard on total it's something like from all of those it's like 15,000 a day. I've heard it's like something like 15,000 a day.
Yeah.
Total. So I wouldn't put it past it 5,000 from that company.
Yeah.
Because I was talking with quite a few people at this security defense event in last week, and there was lots of that, and some of the stories you're hearing is just it's incredible.
Yeah, they've got built, as we say, Philips' new factory in Ballarat. I think it's Ballarat. No, it's Port Melbourne. Anyway, it's somewhere near Melbourne. But that's so he already has his factories. This new factory is 6 million units a year it's making. I know that other little one, he said he's making 1 million units of that other thing. Kodak 110, Johnny D. That's the way forward. Kodak 110. How did you get a big ladder to wind it on or something up there? Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. But that was the autopilot. There it was there. That's an autopilot. There weren't many of those in the world because this was killed by ITAR, really, in effect. It was very, very, very hard to get hold of this as a normal user, but it was way ahead of its time. Dean and that was 2008, 2009. So what, it flew at Farnborough in 2010. So it was way ahead of its time. Bring back the wing. And I was thinking of that high wing landing just today because I've been thinking about fire use cases and designing a system and how I do it. And the trouble with runaway fires, even here, is they tend to happen when it's really, really windy. Really, really, really windy. You don't get a runaway fire on calm days. It's going to be really windy. So whatever you make has got to be able to do it. And a flying wing is a great idea. So I was thinking of exactly that high wing landing video from 2008 today. Gosh, we've gone over the hour. What else can we mention while we're here? Any more? We haven't got Ian for the extra hour. Oh, I did it. Stephen and I were both on a webinar. Was it last week? I think it was last week.
Yeah.
And I deliberately haven't spoken to you about it because I thought I'd speak to you about it now and get your live reactions. I'm not sure what I thought about it. We were talking about public perception of drones and what can the industry do better to improve public perception. And I'm not so sure there's any answers while the media is banging on about them.
No. That is, it has to, it has to come from within in a sense, and there has to be, I mean, you can have the regulatories that can say, yeah, I want to do this, but from the hands-on approach, you need to be able to. I mean, if you look at Manodrone, for example, I think they've been having town hall meeting kind of things where they're talking with people, and they'll have open days and stuff. It really, I mean, I think when you have the press, you need to have good press. You need to have, obviously the US, that's going to be pretty much that impossible because everything's going to be clicks and baits and stuff like that. Whereas here in Finland, for example, I think Finland's number 2 in the freedom of press, for example. So the press is quite good. So we tend to have, positive stories, and even when there's something negative, they don't spin it out of control. It tends to be very kind of realistic. But of course, that doesn't mean to say that there is negativity. There is negativity, and people will come up. But people are, I don't have, anyone who's negative towards me to say that drone is a bad thing. They might come up and talk to me and say, "Oh, so that's a drone. Oh, what does it do?" And then you just have, if you spend 2-3 minutes with them and show them, and then they're happy, and then they have a positive reaction. If you can do that all the time, but it must come from the community, I think, more.
I think one of the biggest problems is all the news stories that have been pushed that are anti-drone, and in the over 10 years of operating, I think I had 4 experiences that I can say, were not nice in over 10 years. So I only have 4 people that really did not like the drone. A couple were just, I've had people interested and you talk them through it and stuff. But I think in all my years, and I can be a nice person, by the way, everyone, just so you all realise, I can be a nice person. I just had, like I say, 4 experiences that were not good in over 10 years. But I don't consider that too bad, really, to be honest. Out of the tens of conversations I've had, and 4 were not what I would call pleasant. There was no fisticuffs or anything, just people don't understand technology. The problem is people's mums for years have told them one thing: the universe evolves round them. This is what the universe evolves around them. And when you tell them it doesn't, they don't like it always, and it takes them by surprise. I mean, I had one person, and I just turned around and says, "Look," and I did literally say this to them: "Look, I know your mum told you the world, and your daddy told you that the world revolves around you, and it's all about you. I don't know who you are. I've got no idea where you've come from." I says, "The drone is doing this over here, as you can quite clearly see. It's doing a mapping thing. It's over there. It's doing its own thing. I've got no idea who you are. I don't know your name. I don't care." I says, "The drone doesn't care because it doesn't know who you are. What's your problem?" They just instantly had a go, and I just didn't want to. I just couldn't be bothered that day, I suppose, to diffuse and be nice, because they'd already been a bit verbal to me, and some people don't listen to what you tell them, and so you just have to sometimes just speak your mind.
But you do have to write your tongue sometimes.
You do have to, always try to be nice. I always try to be nice. It's a drone. Yes, I'm doing this mapping over here. I'm not overflying over here. I did one. We did a council estate for one company, and I was with a team, and there was about 4 of us, and we're trying to map this massive council estate for a council. I won't say where. And this was a few years ago. And they have like there's always someone that's like a president of an association for the estate. Oh my God. So we had the first run in, and I was very politically correct, and I was very nice, and I was very, this is the boss's number, go call them. I kind of intercepted and took the heat off some of the guys, and let's push it onto the main man, which I did. And then we literally went around the corner, And we weren't there 30 seconds, and this woman comes marching out of her house. You've overflown my... Whoa. We've not done any. And again, I took it for the whole team. I was like, I'm sorry. I says, we've not overflown anything here yet, so I don't understand what you're talking about with the drone overflying your property as such. Could you show me which one it was? I was very no, we've not gone near that one. We've not been near that block. We've got no plans. And that's not on my map. As you can see here, you're one of the owners of this and we're not going near it. Diffuse the situation, be really nice. But yeah,
give them a darn good listening to. That's generally what you have to do with people.
The guys behind me were like, the way they come stomping, they came with that forthright attitude. The guys behind me were like, you were really nice and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not working for myself now. I represent the company that, same as you guys, we're all independent pilots, but we're working for one company. At that point there, I cannot tarnish that. I have to eat as much humble pie as I need to, because it's a big client, it's a big contract going on. I will eat humble pie all day long for them. If it's my own company, sometimes you're a little bit, if someone has a go at me, and I've had one with a property shoot, and I tell you, I had someone who wanted to set a solicitor on me and all sorts. They really wanted to burn me at the stake. But
be me, I would definitely do that.
Be nice to people and explain it to them. But some people just want to moan at you. You're flying a drone, you're not harming anyone, but it's all about them. And we get all the bad stories in the press and all this, that, and the other. But in the UK, you might go, well, we'll call the police because I'm flying in a sensitive area. So, we used to be taught, phone the police and get an incident number. You get like a little number that says, the police can ring it and go, oh, you've got a number. That's fine. But the problem is, as soon as you do that, it's logged as a drone.
It's logged as drone. Yeah, that is the problem.
Automatically against us. So that number, then at the end of the year, people will get all the numbers together and go, oh, look how many drone complaints there were. Legal operators just compound the problem. And it's terrible to say. I stopped calling the police. I just will not entertain it.
What's your social acceptance rate like in South Africa?
Sorry.
Well, it's quite high because nobody takes any notice. Really, no, nobody does. I have been moaned at once. I had a chum of mine who watched this. He did have a job to do a load. It's not social acceptance that you've got to worry about here. It's people sneaking up behind you to get you. It's not
South Africa.
So a friend of mine, no, I'm not going to say this. I'm going to say I may have heard about somebody who may or may not have had a job to do several schools, and he used quite a large platform and set himself off and did a 200-kilometer circle where he put himself in the middle of all the schools, and in one flight he surveyed each school from a central point. And I think the furthest away was about 70 kilometers from one of the schools. But he went around, he just did them all in a day, just flying around in a huge circle, survey, onto the next one, survey, in one go. Because that's what you can do with meaningful large platforms. And that's one flight, 6 or 7 surveys, job done from a safe location.
Would that airframe begin with a B?
No, it might have done actually. I was trying to think. Apparently, allegedly, and I wouldn't know anyone that did that sort of thing, and I wouldn't know anyone with an airframe beginning with a B. So yeah, I think it was actually. I think it was, but yeah, that's what he did. He put himself in the middle and flew. And again, I may have heard somebody else that goes and does surveys in other countries from putting himself next to the border and then flying into the next country, doing the survey and then flying home again. So it's it's
Gary,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to tell you that I will have to go now.
Yes, no, we must go as well.
It's getting late here, and I really need to catch up some sleep. But it was really nice to have some talk with you guys. It's really, I wish I had caught up with you earlier to get the full extent of all that was discussed. But so you're doing this every week, right?
Every week, 2100
Well,
gin
that's
and tonic.
cool.
Yeah.
That's
There's-
really nice. Oh, nice.
Well, it's good to catch you. Welcome back to the business. It's got harder.
Yeah.
That's the bottom.
It's even
But
harder.
it's not
Whoa.
like it was in the good old days. It's not like that anymore.
Okay. It's still an interesting business, though. So
Oh yes.
there's
Right.
still interesting things to see, interesting people to meet. So that's why I'm always keeping a foot in this business. But of course, I have other sources of of income or other activities that are far easier to set up. I always
Mm.
think that when I compare to real estate, it's way easier to sell an apartment or a house. You don't need to fly the house. You don't need to crash the house. You don't need to have an authorization to enter inside the house and whatever regulation.
Mm.
It's so
Mm.
easy.
Mm.
When I see people in real estate complain like the difficulty of the little a few legal documents they need, and when I compare this to drone regulation, this is a piece of cake for me.
Absolutely. All right. Well. Let's take this opportunity for all of us to go, because we've gone past the hour. So, dear viewer, wherever you are, thanks very much for watching. Look after yourselves wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you again at 2100 Gin and Tonic next week. Cheers, everybody. Take care.